Hello, everybody. This is Tom Eckert here. You're listening to my podcast, Numerology, a GPS for the soul. This is your place to learn about the true power of numerology and how to use it to bring out the best in yourself, understand your loved ones better, take wise decisions, and prepare for your future. In other words, how to live your life aligned with your true destiny. Take your time to educate yourself and share these podcasts with your friends and family so they too can enjoy the great benefits of numerology. Enjoy! Hello there, and welcome to all my listeners to yet another fascinating and unique episode where I am about to analyze the numerology chart of no other than Walt Disney. Now, I'm sure Walt Disney needs no introduction, but before I dive into his chart and give the reading, I want to welcome you. If you are new here, this podcast is all about in-depth numerology as a path for inner growth, inner transformation, the expansion of consciousness and self-knowledge. I personally attempt to make numerology grounded, accessible, and also applicable so you can use it for everyday life matters to make your life filled with purpose, with meaning, to bring it into alignment, and eventually live in alignment with your soul's path. Now, for Christmas, my friends, I'm giving my biggest discount yet for all my self-study courses and my numerology readings. So if you want to know about that, stay tuned to the end of the episode. Now, here are a few ways you can dive deeper into numerology. First and foremost, you can book a numerology reading with me. That again is now highly discounted. In a numerology reading, you can ask any question that is burning in your life and get precise answers that are tailored especially to you. You can read more about my readings and contact me through the link in the episode description to book your reading with me. And if you wish to study numerology on a deeper level or even pursue it as a career, then I invite you to check out my two study paths. First out, there is my self-study numerology courses that are, again, now highly discounted, and they give you the rare opportunity to learn numerology online at your own pace on your mobile device, your tablet, or your laptop. My library currently includes 2 self-study courses and more coming up. Or if you want to be initiated into the rare depths of numerology, you can sign up to my complete path of certification, where you study directly with me all the way from beginner to numerology expert and get certified as a professional numerologist. Now, to read more, check out the links in the episode description. So without further ado, let us dive into Walt Disney's chart. So now we're ready to look at the very unique chart of a person that definitely left an impression on the whole, let's say, movie industry, the film industry, especially the cartoon industry. A very, very creative person, a person that we have theme parks named after. We all know figures from Walt Disney, from Mickey Mouse to the Lion King or Aladdin or many, many other, famous Bambi and so on and so forth. Like, just to name a few, there are so many of us have grown on the laps of, Walt Disney's movies. Now, as always, when I do these readings, as you've already probably seen in previous episodes, I come with no previous preparation. I simply have the chart in front of me, and I just look up some basic facts on the person, so I make sure that I'm not inventing, facts when I do refer to facts. But in terms of analyzing or reading the chart, I have no previous preparation. I am going to be surprised myself. So when I'm looking at Disney's chart, the first thing that I see, and again, because Walt Disney had a middle name, then there are 2 charts that I look at. First is Walter Elias, which is his middle name, and then Walter Disney. Okay, both charts. and I'm probably going to mention what numbers I'm looking at. So, first and foremost, I see a 191 life path number right there at the core, and a 5 birthday number. Sort of two numbers that are inborn that represent the core of the person. And this 1 and 5 tell me right from the get-go that this person is very expressive, has a very individualistic way of going about their life. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to do it in an innovative spirit. It's important for them to carve out their own unique path and ways in whatever they do. And the 5 amplifies that one life path. It gives it even more freedom, even more flexibility, even more that sense of I am going to follow only what my gut, intuition, desires, and impulses tell me to do. Right? So there's a very strong self-guided energetic composition here. Now, as we start to unpack this, we see 48-3 or a 3 expression number, which tells me again there's that 3, right, with the creative energy, the childlike energy. Think about it. What did Disney do eventually? Like, he put a lot of emphasis on cartoons, on children's materials, and that is very, very much related to his number 3. Now, if I take it a step further, then I'm looking at the 1-3 life path expression number combination. And again, number combinations, as you guys already, heard me say multiple times, are one of the most important foundations in numerology, very often overlooked and not studied well enough. This is why I created a whole self-study course about number combinations, the only one out there, by the way, and also right now discounted. They tell us a lot about the person. The 1-3 is very youthful and childlike and creative. There's a strong young spirit with 1-3. So if you, by the way, are a 1-3 and also a 1-5, interestingly, like we saw already the 1-5, now we see the 1-3. There's a recurring theme here of something youthful, something young in that person's spirit, in the way they want to express themselves. So there's a lot of creativity in Walt Disney's chart. There's a lot of innovative spirit that is apparent both with 1-5 and the 1-3, and even each number is a standalone, 1, 3, and 5. All of them are innovative in one way or another. They're all sort of free-spirited, curious, explorative, or exploratory. How do you say that? Numbers, you know what I mean. So the 1, 3, 5, it's this very, very childlike, youthful, youngish energy. And when you think about it, right? Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and all the other figures of Walt Disney, it really conquered in a way the world of, um the film industry for kids, and many adults saw it as well. You have comic books and whatnot. You have everything, and I mean, just go to Disneyland. It's a huge attraction in so many countries. Um, and by the way, if you have a 1-3 or 1-5, I'm sure you can relate to that sort of spirit. They're very youthful, very innovative spirit. Now, there's if we progress, we see a 35-8 in Disney's Soul Urge, or an 8, in other words. And this is fascinating because it's one thing to have, a lot of creativity, and to have a lot of youthfulness and an expressive energy, like the drive to express yourself. But it's another thing altogether, to be able to make of it such a huge empire as Walt Disney managed to pull off. And I think that is very much thanks to his 8. The 8 gives here a lot of power, a lot of strength, And I think, in many ways helped him take this creativity and really bring it to the next level. Make it into a reality. It's like the dreaming big, dreaming about manifestation, because eventually, right, the soul urge has a lot to do with our dreams, our deepest aspirations. So I want to make it big. I want these things to come true. I want to make them into something concrete where, you know, to leave an impact, to you know what I mean? To establish something. This is very much the eight energy. And Walt Disney indeed was like a very, very innovative figure. So first of all, again, the one, and then the 1 3, the 1 5. I mean, this guy, really changed the whole movie industry. I on purpose, I don't read much, so I'm not gonna be biased. I just know that that Disney definitely innovated a lot in the movie industry. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm saying this, please don't, catch me by the word, because maybe I'm not accurate here, but I think he was sort of introducing, you know, full color, 3 strip, whatever, to the, cartoons, and also synchronized sound. And so, a lot of technical developments, in cameras and so on. This is really, I think a lot of it is attributed to him. um, and you can see, these things in some of his movies, like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or Pinocchio, or Fantasia. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it in English. Dumbo, all these Bambi, very, very famous, very famous movies. Um, so yeah, so we can see so much of this innovation, so much of this expressiveness, by the way. I think when Disney was young, again, if I'm not mistaken, he was already sort of, before he became anything, he was sort of playing, he was playing with um sort of scribbling little cartoons, which is so fascinating. This just need to express, which is so typical of people that have like a 3 expression number. Again, let's, for a moment there, I'm setting aside number combinations to also isolate some of the qualities. I always put an emphasis on how important it is to understand where the numbers show up in the chart, right? So like we see 3, not in the life path, not in the soul edge, but in the expression number, like how much it is influencing the person's need, how the person needs to express themselves, with a lot of creativity, with a lot of childlike motives, with a lot of trying out new things. And all of these qualities you can really find in Walt Disney's life. Now, some of you might know that um, numbers like 1, like 3, like 5, they really like being in center stage. And even though Disney himself was not, uh, taking part in movies or becoming, an actor in any way or form, he was still dubbing some of the voices, and he was really out there, being a very central figure in the film industry, in the media. He was an entrepreneur. So all of these numbers coming together, right? The one, we can say at the core, the innovator, right? The discoverer, the one who treads into new territories that nobody ever has trodden before. You can see all of that. Soon we're gonna talk about another fascinating quality that comes as a surprise, but we'll understand why it is the way it is because of his secondary chart without a middle name. Um, so right, so we see that, and we also see like the ability, you know. So I mentioned the 8, okay, and now I'm gonna create another connection for you guys. Again, I'm just giving you the tip of the iceberg. To learn more about number combinations, you need to really study deeply the self-study course, or the in-depth studies, which is even like far, far deeper. But like, another way to understand how Disney was able to pull off such a huge, mega empire and succeed in such huge ways, I also attribute to the 1 and 8 number combination that he has in his sacred triad. Sacred triad, if you remember from many previous episodes, has to do with the life path, the expression, and the soul urge numbers. This is, by the way, a term that my beloved teacher, Sharon Ron, taught me just as a way to sort of a sweet way to refer to these 3 core numbers that constitute so much of the core characteristics of the person. So 1-8. 1-8 is, highly masculine, highly capable, somebody who pushes forwards, who knows how to drill through obstacles and overcome hurdles and make things come true. In other words, really make dreams come true. And even though it's not the 1-8 are not, touching his expression number, which would be more about the manifestation element, it's still so strong in every number in a way that occupies the sacred triad in one way or another will simply bleed into everything else inside of you. Like it will really inform everything that you do, even your actions, even though they're not these numbers are not strictly speaking the expression number, still they bleed into it. So they influence a lot of the capacity of the person. So here you go. Here you go. So a very innovative persona, a very, an entrepreneur, an innovator, a media person needs to be in the media. Media is very front stage, and that's very much like a 1-ish quality, or a 1-3-ish quality, or a 1-5-ish quality, or even a 3-5-ish quality. Like all these numbers, combine them in any way you want, like 1-3-5, and it makes a lot of sense, especially with the 1 at the center, right? That's really like the key component here. But now I want to introduce like another side of Walt Disney that is perhaps less known unless you really read about him, um, and would not be immediately visible in his core chart unless you also check his secondary chart. But before I keep talking any further, if you're enjoying this podcast, my friends, and you want to keep learning more in-depth and grounded numerology and support my work, make sure to click the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell on the platform you're listening from, and make sure to become part of my neurology community. Your help goes a long way in helping me continue doing this work. Also, make sure to follow me on Substack, where I write in-depth content about numerology and Dharma combined. The link is in the podcast episode description. And of course, make sure to check out the comment section, leave a comment, let me know what you think, ask a question, share your thoughts. I love to communicate with you guys. So let's move on. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, fascinatingly, it is said about Disney that in private, Disney was actually a rather self-deprecating persona and a rather insecure person, right? But on the outside, adopted a more warm and outgoing public persona. So it's fascinating because when you look at a chart that is 1, 3, 5, 8, you wouldn't necessarily think, that this man would be self-deprecating and insecure. What is insecure about 1, 3, 5, 8? These are very self-confident numbers. But here's the thing. When you look at his secondary chart, suddenly the numbers change. Suddenly the expression number is an 11-2, and the soul number is a 22, 20/2. So there are two number 2s in his sacred triad suddenly. And this is a little bit more, first of all, it adds a lot of 2 energy. And as we know, and if you don't, please go ahead and listen to my episodes about number 2. But number 2 is more shy, is more introverted, is more private, is lacking confidence, right? So it makes a lot of sense that someone with a life path 1 that has 2 2s just interacting with this one, not only are they going to be in conflict, but in many ways they're going to, one can say, mute the one to some extent, or diminish its volume, diminish, its strength, and naturally create a sense that is lacking confidence or second guessing one's own initial drive, right? And really add to that sense of self-doubt and not really being sure of the impulses originating from the core. So that can be easily understood when we look at his secondary chart. And also why it's important, by the way, to really sort of look at that and understand that. Now, he's functioning on both ends, and he's functioning both on his primary chart. He's focusing on, the secondary chart. We all do, all of us who have middle names. What's also fascinating, and here I'm going to introduce another number, and namely the personality number. The personality is more the way we behave to the outside world. It's not necessarily reflective of who we are on the deepest levels, but it does reflect who we or what we want to show to the outside. Now, what's fascinating about both charts is that, for example, in the primary chart, the number is 4. And 4 is very, very different, from 1, 3, 5, and 8, the numbers that occupy all the other locations. 4 is more grounded, more responsible. And that's what he shows to the world, despite the fact that he's like very driven, very, creative, very full of youthful zest. And the same goes with the secondary chart, where he's like, there's more 1 and a 2 energy, so more like simple energies. Again, something I teach in my in-depth studies, simple and complex numbers. And suddenly there's a 9, like a very big number suddenly in the legs. In the legs. Sorry, I call it the legs because that's the term I use in the human body method that I teach my in-depth students. A 9 in the personality number. So the 9 is in the personality number. And again, like, what is this number suddenly? It's so in both charts, like the personality number really stands out. Like, what's going on there? Like, why are you showing something so different than your inner self? And when somebody shows something so different than their inner self, well, maybe they have some issues with their inner self, right? I mean, at least that's one conclusion we can take from this. So maybe that's another reason why he was self-deprecating. Again, there can be deeper psychological reasons for that stemming from childhood, but again, I'm not gonna go into such depth here. Um, Now, another huge thing in Disney's life was not just, the film industry, but at some point it started becoming theme parks. I mean, literally, when we think of like a big park with roller coasters and whatnot, like all these super adventurous, um, you know, different rides, crazy rides and stuff that you can do there. You think of, Disneyland or Disney World and stuff like that. This has been almost like the staple, sort of like the standard, I would say, the for theme parks, for big theme parks. And he really, there's a lot of sort of expansion and fun energy in that, right? And again, this brings us back to the primary chart, where we see the 1, the 8, the 3, the 5. And even as like, all of these energies are, as I said, youthful. Let's play. Let's have something fun. And making it into something huge, which, as mentioned earlier, we see the 8. And also the 1. And also the combo of 1, 8. But I would also say, the combo of, 3, 8, which is 3A8, when I teach it, in depth, I'm gonna just share a little snippet. It's like there's that sense of deserving to enjoy. Like, I deserve to enjoy. Of course, I'm allowed to enjoy. I'm allowed to give myself all my desires, right? It's like this, think about it, like 3, the child, and 8, the one who fulfills things. The child who wants this and wants that, and I want to try this out, I want to try that out, and the 8 that manifests it. So the 3-8 is also telling us, like, yeah, I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna fulfill all the magical desires that a child wants to experience. All these magical experiences and crazy rides and so on. And again, in the 1-5 spirit, that is also capable of manifestation and making things extremely unique, right? And the 1-3 that brings that creativity and childlike spirit into it all. And expansion, my friends, expansion. Remember, like 1-8, capable of just doing whatever. And 1-8-5, and 8-5. I didn't even mention that combo. So many combinations here that give a lot of strength, a lot of capacity for manifestation, a lot of capacity to make whatever I want come true. Now, what's so crazy about Disney? Again, I didn't know all of this. I was sure this man has a lot of awards to his name, but like this guy got many awards for his works. I'm just in passing saying, and this is perhaps not very accurate, but from the little that I know or read, he got at least 22 Academy Awards, an Emmy Award, among many others. That's a lot. And again, when we speak of achievements, right? We look at 1-8, for example, right? Um, and we look at the 1-3-5-8, all numbers that are highly, highly capable of great creativity, great, colorful uniqueness. Like all the numbers, like he was literally made to do this, made to be an innovator, but also add so much color to the way he does it, so much creativity, so much uniqueness, so much innovation. And so the 1-8 here, I would say, stands out in the sense of achievements, right? It's, first of all, we can say the 8. 8 is like a lot about achievement, right? You can see 8 in a lot of in charts of athletes, for example, competitive, wanting to reach the top. 1 also is like the alpha, wanting to innovate, wanting to reach the top, carving out a whole new path. I mean, Disney literally carved out a whole new path. Disney is a name. It's a household name. Like it's everybody knows Disney. It's like we have Disney Plus. We have, you know what I mean? It's like Disney is a huge thing. It's a household name again. It's a bit like saying Mozart, or you know what I mean? Or Michael Jordan, like these people who became or Einstein, like representative of a whole field. And Disney is also one of those names. So again, you see here the capacity to achieve great things with the 1-8, with the 5-8, with the 3-8. So it's with 1-5, a lot of capacities. And I would even argue that with the secondary chart, when you look at the expression number, the 11, to a master number 11, even though it has a 2, and the 2 can definitely make him more shy, when functioning on the higher end, on the 11 gives a lot of inspiration, a lot of capacity to manifest and to be involved in many innovative projects and endeavors. So I think, this gives a pretty fascinating picture into Walt Disney's chart. One last thing I'm going to say. As I'll sort of circle back to the point of the self-deprecation. Another interesting thing, self-deprecation can sometimes also stem from his, I would argue, his life path number, which is a 19-1. Now, the 1 is normally very self-confident, but the 19, a karmic debt number, if you don't know, go back to my episode about the 19-1 karmic debt. Sometimes, instead of feeling confident and self-assured, the 19-1 has this, like, they start from a place of feeling inadequate or like not good enough and so on and so forth. Maybe that added to the self-deprecation. So just a little point that I wanted to drop in here before we wrap this up. Um, so I hope that first of all, listening to like a freestyle chart reading gives you some, some sparks your interest and gives you that feeling of how one can feel into the numbers and how numerology can really be spoken as a language. Because you see, I'm simply freely speaking about a personality. I could have said everything without knowing a thing about this person. Again, I didn't prepare. I'm just looking at this chart in front of me and speaking what I see in front of me. And that's what I aspire to really bring each and every in-depth student of mine to that level where numerology has become a second language. Having said that, I promised to tell you about one of the biggest offers I've given yet for Christmas. So a really, really generous Christmas sale. I'm basically offering both my self-study numerology courses and my numerology readings for a whopping 40% off, my friends. This is something I haven't offered for years, and it's almost half the price. So if you want to start dabbling with numerology, if it's not something you want to do as a profession, but you want to have some foundations, some good foundations, I have two very solid self-study courses. Simply go to the links provided in the episode description and choose the course you want. Maybe you want both. You can use the coupon code more than once. And upon checkout, use the coupon code XMAS 2025. XMAS, all capital letters, 2025. One word, okay? And you'll get the 40% off. Now, if you want an almost half price numerology reading, again, directly from me, simply send me an email via the contact form on my website. And in the body of the email, write that same code. XMAS 2025, XMAS 2025 in the email. I'll simply reply and give you all the details. And lastly, my friends, and this is very special, and this is a one-time offer. I've never offered it before. I'm not sure I'll offer it again. We'll see. For those who want to go in depth with me, and this is a real deep journey. I don't accept everyone, but I'm offering temporarily a 15% discount for my in-depth studies. So for this too, if you're interested, simply send me an email and write in the body of the email, interested in your in-depth studies. That's it, my friend. So make sure to grab these courses and readings. Make use of this. These offers don't come very often. The offer is valid until January 1st, 2026. So I'm looking forward to meeting many of you and seeing many of you study numerology. So that's it, my friends. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell to support this work and to become part of my numerology community. Make sure to follow me on Substack, where I write about numerology and Dharma. Remember, the link is again in the episode description. Check out the comment section, leave a comment, tell me what you think. I will always answer you. And of course, check out my numerology readings that are now discounted. Check out my courses, my in-depth certification studies, if you want to acquire a deeper mastery of numerology, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next episodes. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, and you want to go deeper into numerology, check out my website, tom-eckert.com. You can also book a numerology reading or even study numerology yourself through my courses. I'll see you in the next episode.